Roll up.
Calling order the council meeting of May 27th, 2026. Please call the roll.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Ms. Swords? Mr. Modi?
Here.
Ms. Godek? Here. Mr. Lemay?
Here.
Mr. Gentile?
Here.
Colonel Rice?
Here.
Good evening, council. Good evening, audience. Welcome. Welcome to summer of 26. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we move on to audience comments. Are there? Yes.
My name is Carol Andrews. I've lived in Pike for 58 years.
Good evening.
And yesterday morning, I had an occasion to, kind of unusual, to pick up some things on Mayfield Road. And from there, I got to Chagrin, pick something else up, and then come back to Pike. The thing that struck me totally, I was not expecting it, was on Mayfield Road, there were numerous American flags flying. It kind of made you feel good driving down Mayfield Road. And then from there, I was up in Chagrin Falls, which was absolutely unbelievable with American flags. And coming home, I came down Chagrin Boulevard. And from 91 to the circle, this is obviously because of Memorial Day. There was not a single flag until you got to the circle. And my general, not complaint, suggestion is certainly for the 250th anniversary of this wonderful country that we live in. I think Heifer Pike can do a little better in the American flag department. And in particular, I think actually between 91 and the circle, which encompasses the high school and the library, and I should clarify, there is an American flag in front of the high school, there's one in front of the library. There are none when you're driving down Chagrin Boulevard. So I'm here to suggest that you consider upping the amount of American flags, certainly for the 250th anniversary of this incredible country we live in.
Thank you very much for your comments. Good advice. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments?
I'm Grace Barber, 33,000 Shaker Boulevard. Wondering if there's anything that can be done to expedite the gas line from Pepper Creek to 91 that's had several breaks. A few weeks ago I called and maybe we came out and marked 2 areas that had a break, and they did fix those within the next couple of days. But still along that line, there's a lot of smelling of the gas, and don't want another explosion. And talking to the repair people, they said basically the fixes were a Band-Aid on bullet holes. So I think it's something that maybe the city should expedite or try and move forward.
I'll be happy to follow up with Buzz Dominion, no longer, and make a new clear.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, then we will move ahead to the approval of the council minutes of April 15th, 26th, and April 22nd. Do we have a motion, please, regarding the minutes of April 15th?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Modi?
Yes.
Ms. Godek? Yes. Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Colonel Rice?
Yes.
Next, a motion for the approval of April 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Bodie?
Yes.
Ms. Bodie? Yes. Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
Abstain.
Colonel Rice?
Yes.
We will now hear from our committees and department heads. Committees, we had a finance committee meeting this evening.
Yes, we did. We had the finance committee and we reviewed the April reporting. Things looked in order, although we still look forward to a new version of the appropriations now that we have new labor contracts that will impact that. Yeah, but other than that, everything looks fine. Thank you.
Okay.
A couple questions. I was wondering what the progress is on finding a resident number for the investments.
We are not in the process of finding a resident member for investments.
What does that mean?
We have not adopted a process to find a resident member to review investments.
Are we going to do that?
I don't know if nobody has taken it up in the committee, but I know personally I don't have an interest.
That was agreed to when we.
There was an agreement that the committee would consider if they needed the advice. Nobody committed that we were going to take that specific action.
That's my understanding. On the page 14 of 14, there's a bill that was paid for $6,600 for Shazam Soil and Water 2026 Pike program. I'm not sure.
Sorry, give me 1 second. Page 14, you said?
Yeah, page 14. A little more than halfway on the page. Iowa Soil and Water, $6,600, 2026 Pike program. I'm not familiar with that. I don't think I've seen that before. Do you have a more specific description of that?
I could provide a little background, like that's, every year we actually get that work done. They provide county-wide education and outreach materials, rain garden seminars and all that kind of stuff. And we actually get the money reimbursed from regional sewer district. So
Okay.
it may show up as an expense, but it's the actual cost of the cities.
All right, a little further down, there's a payment to JP Morgan Price, JP Morgan Chase for $69.93.17 for Amazon supplies. Do you have anything more specific to describe what that is?
I'd have to look, Tony, I believe that may be our payment with the credit card. But I can get back with you.
Well, yeah, but it's described as Amazon supplies, so, it's, I think that's a lot more than the usual payment to the credit card, so I'd like to get some specifics on what actually was purchased.
I'll pull it for you and I'll send it over to you.
Okay. And then the last one is, let's see, I think it's Deemer. $88,060.50 for jury trial expenses. I wasn't aware that they were in the middle of a jury trial. Is that something that you can talk about?
It would be something that our prosecutor, that would come out of his efforts. I don't know what the trial is.
That's an account that fluctuates quite a bit during the year, depending on.
Yeah, I guess I've never seen jury trial expense before, so this is.
I'm guessing he probably needed something in the way of exhibits.
I put that detail in the notes just so you can see what it was for.
All right.
Something I'm curious, do you not think it's appropriate, or are you not comfortable asking these questions offline? What, is there a need to do this publicly?
this was an opportunity to ask a question, I think.
But it does kind of interrupt our agenda to do this now, when you could do
With all
it.
due respect, that's your opinion. I think that these are questions that maybe other people have as well, and that we should be, this is public information.
I think the likelihood of getting a better answer, if you know, like I would email in advance to ask about it, and if you wanted to raise issue in the public forum, by all means, but like, who's gonna know one specific line of known off the top of their head?
It's a large amount, and,
Right, I guess,
I think.
like questions like this come up frequently, and in your experience, have you ever gotten a satisfactory answer, or have you had to wait for follow-up? So if you have to wait for follow-up, then it's better to just ask it in advance, is my opinion.
And, I'll exercise my right to ask questions when
Do you have anything else?
Pardon?
Anything else? No. Okay, thank you. Were there, since we were together last week, were there any other committees? I know that Mr. Modi's Futures Committee is about to meet.
Tomorrow will be.
That'd be the organizational meeting, so to speak. That's exciting.
Yes.
It is so, it's super exciting.
All right, I think that's it then for committees, and we will move on to the department heads if there's anything to report.
Nothing new announced.
Chiefs. I do know that our fire department was engaged in a house fire, not Pepper Pike, but that everyone came out safe and none of our firefighters were injured, and it was just a property fire. So good. Glad that everyone came through well. Everyone, anything?
Trail is moving along in Gatesville Boulevard, kind of as expected, a couple areas where they really soft material.
Right, we're putting together a website block that's going to describe the progress of the trail, where we are. So if you could make sure you feed to my office expected dates of progress completion, and we'll make sure to get that published on the website. Thank you.
And on that topic, Mayor, I had emailed a couple people from MKSK just to say how beautiful the trail, the completed version looks. And Susie wrote back that she had visited, just to walk it and check it out, see like what her work looks like out, sort of in the wild, so to speak, which I thought was really impressive. Obviously, they spent a ton of time planning and designing, to just take their own time to follow up, and, a year after the fact, speaks highly of the work that they do, I think.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I will pass on that compliment to the, I think I was out there myself today. I think that the wildflowers are really
Gorgeous.
pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is only year one of establishment, but she often expresses that it takes 2, 3, even 4 years for the meadow to establish itself. So, better things to come here. We'll move on to our consideration of ordinance 2026-06. This is the appeal of the Planning Commission ordinance. And since we're together, Mr. Renee completed an examination he wanted to conduct of the current ordinance and has promoted a memorandum that he composed to the council about it. And I'll just turn it over. We've had more than 3 readings of this, but I will turn it over to council as to what conversation you want to have regarding this.
Let me just chat about what I wrote and why I wrote it just for a minute. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but just to go back in history, we did a little work in our Pepper Pike attic to find out the origins of this, and I got back to 1975 and an ordinance signed by Mayor Parks. And I think this right of council review, it's in this ordinance in 1975. It may have existed years before that, but I just got tired of, it's not easy to track in our dusty attic up there. I hope with the whole renovation, we have a better records organization. But Sheila fortunately pointed me in the general right direction. So it reaffirmed for me that, not only is this practiced in many other municipalities, but it's been in Pepper Pike for a long time. And the more I thought about it, just kind of me, it came down to two issues. One is the one I've spoken of before, it's the basic fairness to residents. And just having them have an opportunity to have their say one more time. As I've said before, we've not had an appeal. And I think that's because the planning commission has done their job. And they've reached compromises or solutions and not left people wanting. But there may come a day where that doesn't work, and we have this process. And the more I looked into it, the more the opportunities are to prevent litigation, which is my goal. That comes from both sides, not only having a resident have one more say, but I think in almost all cases, it would be a very rare case where the council wouldn't simply affirm what the planning commission had done. And I wrote that in my revised ordinance because I think it's important that council actually affirm it to create an even better record. But the other side of this is if we do have a very contentious case, say it's a matter where a resident is opposed to another resident, one wants the variance and the other doesn't want the variance, it becomes contentious and potentially litigious. Having the council review process gives the city an opportunity to make sure it's in the strongest legal position possible by reviewing the record and hearing the arguments of the two sides and understanding where there's any vulnerability to our legal position. And that's kind of to me, that's a free look, a chance to tighten and affirm the record so that it's as good as defensible as possible. And that process costs the city nothing to go through that and make sure that we're firm as ground as possible. So to me, it's two sides. It's fairness to the residents, but it's also giving a chance before litigation to buttress our legal position or potentially reach a compromise settlement. So to me, in both of those instances, having this process there is a win-win for the city. It's a win for the residents, and there's a great chance it could stop litigation from ever happening. So I'm really in favor of retaining it, and I'm retaining it. My other comment was on the standard of review. I think having that standard review is shortchanges our residents from having a full and fair look at it. And I think a constrained council they'll be dissatisfied with that process. And then the other side of that, to the extent of strengthening the city's legal position, which is as strong a benefit in a contentious case as the fairness to the residents. Having the standard review may constrain the council's ability to firm up the legal record and make sure that if it is go to litigation, we're in the strongest position as possible. So with that, I'll happy to answer any questions on my memo or my revised ordinance.
So I'm very much I guess a novice at this, and I have waffled on this issue. And one of the things is even looking at that case law that you mentioned in your memo, what I got from it was whoever reviews it last, when you talk about buttressing our legal position, whoever reviews it last, so that legal case said, yeah, you could have counsel look at it, but now they become the final say. And so if it gets litigated, it's the council's position that represents the cities,
Correct.
Not the planning commission. Who, as we all know, our planning commission acts as the board of zoning appeal. So everybody understands that. So what it looks to me, and even though this has been in place for a long time, but it looks to me that it in fact dilutes the power of the body that has the experience and the knowledge and their final word, because we've come along as council and we've stuck our fingers in it. So that's where, like I said, I'm a novice at this, but that's how I'm reading that little piece of case law that you stuck in your memo.
Yeah, I put that in there just to affirm that kind of having an administrative review process internally is a common thing. It's not unusual or strange, but you're right.
Well,
If,
that case law didn't say that it's common. It said permissible.
Yeah.
But it didn't say it was common. But it also made it very strong, I thought, that whoever looks at it last, that's gonna be the last word of the city that they litigate.
Correct.
You know, so they're not gonna go back, nobody's gonna be able to go back and say, well, our planning commission said it. No, they didn't look at it last.
but the
The
point, I guess,
council looked at it last.
and you're correct with that.
Okay.
And the point I would make is twofold for that. One is, again, appeals have been very rare, rarely exercised, never abused. And to me, this is a chance to avoid litigation even from residents. And as I say, we've had so few appeals because I think the planning commission has done their job. So to me, this is an insurance policy. Either a resident who just goes off for whatever reason, even though the decision in accordance with law, and wants another say. I'd rather have that say internally without lawyers in courts and thousands of legal fees than go right to court on it. So that is better than litigation. And the other side of that is the opportunity of counsel to hear arguments from several sides, legal, factual, whatever they are, written arguments only based on the record that was created by the commission. And by that way, the city gets smarter about whether there's any legal vulnerabilities. And if there are legal vulnerabilities, a chance to fix them.
Well, so that brings me to another question. Again, I'm a novice about all this. Well, why, if we did anything, if council did anything, rather than being able to amend or change or override, what's the word? Why can't they just send it back? Remand. Why can't they just remand it?
I would,
Couldn't it be that we just say, okay, council looked at it and they said, yeah, maybe this should get remanded.
I'd preserve that in my market because I think that's right.
But without any of the other stuff, okay? Because I don't know that council and I know I'm going to sound like I'm parroting the mayor and the legal counsel, but you know, and who knows who we may be influenced by, and now we're going to allow ourselves to be amending or overriding what the planning commission said, and why. But I come to think, okay, maybe what we could do is we could remand it and say, maybe you guys should have taken another look at this.
I put that in there specifically that we would commit. And I think if it's more than something very simple, like allowing, for example, let me give you an example that I've read in the cases I've researched on this. It comes a case that someone was supposed to get notice of this and didn't get notice. So they didn't know about it, and the hearing goes ahead, and just administrative error, let's just assume. And then they applied it on appeal to council because they didn't get notice. That's a circumstance in which, and there may be many others, in which my view is we absolutely would recommit that to the planning commission for consideration. He didn't get a notice. We should listen to what I had to say and supplement the record. And that way, it eliminates or softens any chance that he would go right to court and say, I didn't get notice. So he could file a 2506 lawsuit and say, I didn't get notice, it was improperly handled down below. And then we're in litigation.
Except if he said that to the planning commission, I didn't get notice, the planning commission's gonna go, all right, let's let you.
No, this is after the fact.
No, I'm saying, an individual goes, the planning commission has a meeting, it's on the agenda, person doesn't show up. What does the planning commission do? Uh-oh, my guess is they're gonna have a meeting, and somebody from the staff is gonna call the resident and say, hey, have you changed your mind? Why didn't you come? They're not gonna assume, oh, they're gonna go right to a legal battle. I think that's ludicrous.
Well, once the deadline has expired after the planning commission decisions, there's no avenue to go back. But they could go to council and say, I didn't get notice.
So I'm not a lawyer, and I didn't even sleep at a Holiday Inn last night, so I can't even pretend to be one. But I listened to the city's legal counsel, I listened to your counsel, and I'm going, okay, both make decent arguments. But I gotta tell you, I fall in line with our law director's comments for a couple of reasons.
the litigation piece, but I also look and go, look, we already have one council member and the mayor on the planning commission. So now we have a council member who's voted on the planning commission and the mayor, and it comes to the council for appeal, and now this person has already voted on the issue. And now it comes back up to the council. I'm thinking, I think the planning commission is the end game, and from what I've seen, they do a good job of working with the residents, and I go back to what our law director says and does not recommend this, so that's where I'm at.
It's been part of our law for 50 years that we could do this. It's rarely been used. To me, Colonel, it's an insurance policy. Something goes wrong, we have a stopgap measure before suddenly we're in court spending tens of thousands of dollars. That's the big advantage to me of having a chance to stop the litigation and stop from where we don't want to be ever in court. And that's the main advantage I see in it. And it costs us nothing to do this. It's there. It's available to stop litigation and get it right. Send it back if we need to the planning commission. I think we're being short-sighted.
I think it does cost us, but I'm gonna hold my thought because Mr. Morgan wanted to speak.
Yeah, thank you. So I've got 3 points. Number one, I thought this original topic was brought up because I wanted to get rid of the automatic reviews. So I don't know why we went down this rabbit hole, but since we're in it, let's figure out a way to get out of it. So number two, the way it's written, the latest version, in my opinion, I think we need to be careful because it still gives the impression to residents that they have a true appeal right with council. But in reality, I don't think that's realistic. And I think it's messy the way it's currently worded. And three, I'm back to my first point. How do we move on from this? I think we've talked a lot. I personally think with the resident hat on, it makes sense to leave the status quo.
I guess my last comment is, again, a novice at this, but as I understand it, when it comes to the litigation of these matters in court, one of the pillars that the city would lean on would be consistency in how matters have been handled. And somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but when we introduce the second body to be able to amend, what are all the things we can do? We can amend and reject and reverse and revise and disapprove. I think we open ourselves to some less consistency. So again, the only word that I see in here that I like is to recommit. So if we looked at it and we said, oh, this really should go back to them because maybe they didn't hear everything somebody said, if that's what you're concerned with. But I don't know if the law director would even agree with that or not, but that's my understanding now. Because like I said, I waffle on this, but I've taken it very seriously. I've done some additional research and I've come to understand that if we would hope to survive in court, we have to present that we consistently handle matters in the same way. If we introduce a second body, I think we would risk that consistency.
I'm gonna make a motion that we vote on the amended ordinance as written by Mr. Lemay.
Okay, I'll second.
So that means it would be taking away the automatic appeal to council, maintaining the ability to take it, yeah, okay.
All right, so we're in the discussion period of the motion.
Wait, you said which version?
The version Mr. Lemay sent out.
So this would be a motion to amend ordinance 2026
Oh,
dash 06
To adopt.
to
As
adopt
amended.
as amended, as
By
introduced
Mr.
by
Lemay.
Mr. Lemay.
Correct.
So that means still allows appeal to council.
But the version that was sent out yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're in a discussion. Is there more discussion on that? I'd like to just make one comment before council votes. What really concerns me about Mr. LeMay's last reiteration that's now before council is it completely removes any standard of review. It is fraught that council would review something without a standard of review. Contrary to the assertion that the purpose of this would be to tighten and lessen the legal exposure of the city, this increases the legal exposure of the city to adopt this as it's written. There is no standard of review. On its face, that creates a litigation situation on its own. Let me finish, please. The other problem with it is, council, and I understand Mr. Modi's comment that, oh, it's been here a while, let's just leave it alone. Just because it's been there doesn't mean that it's right or that it's good. Because the assumption that council should be in, and it's legal, council can do it, as cited in the case. Doesn't mean it should do it. And what the problem is, again, rather than lessen the legal exposure, as Mr. LeMay is asserting, I believe, our city planner believes, our law director believes, our counsel from Professor Katz, who spoke to council on this issue, believes that without a standard, and by council having any room to arrive at a decision contrary to the planning commission, what you're really doing is creating that very litigation exposure that you think you're avoiding. You are creating litigation exposure. Because yes, you may be satisfying, if something comes up here saying we grant A, and on review by council reverses that and says, no, we say it should be B. Now, there's still another side to that litigation, to that claim. Whoever was in front of the planning commission and got the A decision to begin with. And they can still say, oh, well, council reversed it, and now it says B. Well, I'm going to take a 2506 appeal now. But now when I'm at court with my 2506 appeal, I'm going to say, yes, the final decision of the city was B, but they found facts that are contrary to the facts found by the planning commission. And now, rather than limit the litigation exposure of the city, you've increased the litigation exposure of the city. This is not the way to do it. And simply because that's the way it may have been styled for 50 years or however many years, doesn't mean it's good policy. What this does is intrude council into a process where I know council likes to have oversight. Frankly, this isn't the place. Council should never have had this oversight, in my opinion. This is an administrative function with a court-sanctioned and guided 2506 appeal. If someone lacks notice of a hearing, the planning commission over the years has on its own, when some plain error has been pointed out to the planning commission, has reversed itself and said, you know what, we're going to open this up again and allow this other person to be heard. Planning commission does that now functionally. And if for some reason it didn't, the courts are filled with people who are litigating issues saying we lacked notice and an opportunity to be heard. That is not a dirty word in the court. That's why people do go to court for due process issues such as that. And my recommendation is that the draft that was requested by council that Mr. Byron put together, where there are standards of review, was the compromise between council not hearing it at all and having this review of it. At least Mr. Byron's version has a standard of review. This is critical to this
A
process.
standard review is almost unheard of. I've read 40 different ordinances like this around the Cuyahoga County areas where council has a review authority. And
But-
either it's an automatic review authority or by appeal or some other mechanism.
But
So what you're saying is that council can and ought to have the opportunity to come in and, for its own discretion, overturn the decision of a planning commission, which is precisely what is, I believe, is the reason council should not be involved in this process, as I've said before. That's exactly the reason.
So to clarify though, what's on the table, what we made the motion about was whether or not to adopt this latest version, this version that Jim.
No,
made
the motion that's pending is the motion to substitute this so that the next motion, you would not be adopting this. You would be making this amendment. If this were to fail, you'd go back to the previous version. So,
Yeah,
and then,
that's
so
what I'm
there'd be two votes. If the first vote passes.
The first vote is.
And then the next vote, because somebody could be in favor of this
Now
but
you-
opposed to
Now
that.
you confused me, so let me say it
Sorry.
back. So now let me say it back to you.
Sure.
We're voting now that we got an email with a version that I think Jim LeMay, you.
I agree.
And we're voting now, yes or no, do we want to adopt that version? Is that-
That's correct.
It's a motion to amend the ordinance so that this one would be in front of you. It's a technical motion.
Yeah.
To put this in front of you for up or down. Because right now, the ordinance that's in front of you is the one that was originally written, that eliminated the.
Okay, so this is yes or no, do we want to put I'll call it the Jim LeMay version in front of us?
Right.
And then, if it's in front of you.
Well, let's take it
you have
one
to
step
vote
at a
it-
time.
You have to vote
I
again.
think,
to
I
adopt.
think Mr. Rice is asking us to take it, or Colonel
Let's-
Rice, I'm sorry, is asking us to take it one step
Let's
at a
take a
time.
vote.
Let me respond to the mayor's comment, please. The council is stuck with the facts found by the commission. You can't create new facts. It has to weigh those facts found by the commission. So there's no chance. It's a fixed record. Number two, the council, I think you're selling the council short, Mr. Mayor. The council will look at this holistically with the advice of legal counsel. Eyes wide open, whatever the risks are, yes, no, left, right, we would have the advice of counsel not to put the city at risk. In my view, it would be an unusual case because we've never haven't had it. Because, as I said again, the commission has done their job and not left anyone short or pissed off or whatever they have to be. But in the rare case in which we have that, we're stuck with the facts. We have advice of counsel. And if there's legal risk from not changing it or legal risk to changing it, these 7 members of council will be advised on it. So I don't want to throw that away. I think you're just selling us short a little bit. We want to protect the city. We want to be fair to residents. And this is the safety valve. It's the insurance policy. It says if the worst case happens, if we have a very contentious zoning dispute that looks like it's going to be thousands of legal costs, years in court, this is a chance to diffuse that with one more look. And I think these members of council, they're all professional, they're all smart, they're all clever, would look at that and say, no, we can't touch it. Or we can touch it to make it better. But I think you're selling us short to say we're going from some wild tangent and hurt the city.
Let me just interrupt and call the vote. Motive and intent, and has nothing to do with this, with the council. And there's absolutely zero intent on my part to impugn this council. This is a law. This is not about this council. This is a law that will be interpreted and utilized by future councils that some of you may or may not be sitting on. And as Mr. LeMay said, oh, this has been here for 50 years. It's a close iteration. Well, that's a lot of different councils who are going to be looking at this. And, you guys may be of, stellar and sterling intent. Well, I don't know what the future holds. That's why we should have standards as to, if it's going to be reviewed at all, what is the review standard? I would like to call a vote now.
I'm not.
You want to say something more?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Two things on that. It will also be in front of future planning commissions, right? So future planning commissions, who will be different people than we have today, different guidance, different mayor, different council members. So both will change. And maybe the planning commission won't be as resolute and firm and smart as this one. So that goes both ways. The other thing I want to point out is that there's at least two places in our current ordinances. One is in our townhouse district ordinances, where council is reviewing a townhouse district. I know that's different than a variance, but they have a right to disapprove of any action by the commission. No standard review, just disapprove it flatly. And the same is new subdivision. So there's other places in our code today where council has the right to disapprove of a planning commission decision, no standard review. And also point out that in all the communities I've reviewed, dozens of these ordinances, and I've not seen a standard review. The other thing a standard review is if those circumstances in which we want to make the commission decision stronger, we may be prohibited from making it better by the standard review. So we're hamstringing the council's ability to make the commission's decision and the city's legal position even better.
Except we're talking about zoning there. Zoning is different than what we're talking about planning commission appeals. That deals with changing zoning.
No, well,
What you just described.
that would be a plan for a townhouse district. So
Right.
it's already zoned. That has nothing to do with zoning. It's the plan. It's the plan of how it will be developed.
It's all been said. Call the roll. This is on the motion to amend the ordinance to substitute the iteration circulated by Mr. Boyd.
Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Mr. Bowman?
Yes.
Ms. Goldick? No. Mr. LeVey?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
Colonel Rice?
No.
Okay. Now we have
The motion fails.
It
the
failed.
motion passed.
It did
No,
not.
it's 3-3.
It's 3-3. It failed.
It fails.
Motion fails. Okay. So now we have the original iteration that with Byron markup that still is not officially adopted as an amendment.
Right. Remember, the one that got first reading is the one that removed the council review. There was a subsequent revision to that where it modified the process.
Right.
Right?
So, I want to, looking like a better word, so I want to activate your first version. So what motion are we making?
It would be a motion to adopt that the
So I make a motion.
2026 not as amended, the original.
We make.
2026 as amended was the last one we saw.
2026-06.
Is that the very first one or an amended one?
The first one.
I don't even know what the first one says.
We already voted on
There
that one.
was-
We already voted on that. 5-2.
To amend it, right?
No, to turn it to 5-2, we voted against your first version. We have in front of us your amended version that added the standard of review.
No, we never voted on this.
Yeah, we did.
I thought we voted to amend it.
Yeah,
There was a motion to amend this. I'm sorry, my memory is not certain.
That's how, Mr. Byron.
right. The original document was in front of you. You made a motion to amend, 5 people voted to amend it, but you didn't have the amended version in front of you. If you wanted to consider that one, you'd have a motion to amend it to that version that I sent out.
Is that original voted on amended motion this? Or not? The version that you did with the standard?
Yes.
Is that what was voted 5-2?
They didn't vote on that version. That's what directed me to draft that.
Ah,
So can you summarize what we would be?
Yeah, council would keep the right to review on the appeal. That's right, that's it.
But with the,
Recited.
with the standard, right?
Yes, this is the, section B of the existing, section A of the existing ordinance stays the same. It talks about the meetings of the planning commission. Section B, if council, or if the planning commission is going to vote against the requested relief, or if somebody is present to object to the requested relief, the planning commission would be drafting a document and coming back in a subsequent meeting to adopt the document to state the basis for the decision. This strengthens the city's position in court by having the body that heard the original hearing, the appeal, or the variance request, making a written decision of facts. Then if there is an appeal to council, council can either, council looks at it with the conclusions of fact in front of it and can either, excuse me, I'm getting confused here. The standard review by council is to determine whether the commission's decision applied the correct legal standard for relief as requested by the applicant, and whether the commission has identified evidence that supports its decision. This makes certain that the legal standard is being applied correctly by the commission. If that doesn't happen, council can reverse that decision. And if council does that, law director would be directed to prepare a decision that reverses the commission's decision. And then that would be considered at the next council.
Just this version, the standard review of this version is only that they applied the correct law and they found any evidence supporting the decision, any evidence. It doesn't have to be the majority evidence, substantial evidence, it's any evidence. So council basically has to affirm virtually every decision by the commission. So it's not really a standard review, it's really a prohibition on review. The way this version is worded might outline that in my memo.
This is set up in the same way that appellate courts review trial court's decision, because the trial court is actually hearing the evidence and presumably has better experience with the matter in front of it.
But even the 2506 standard review requires substantial probative evidence. This requires any.
Yeah, so I have to say that I don't necessarily like this either, just for, if we're talking freely here. I'm stuck on, the only thing I want council to do is just to, if they don't like it, remand it. So.
What my concern,
But whether that's a correct action or not, how do we get to where we can put this out and just like we did on the last one, we could have a vote, and we could either clear it off the table or move on.
Steve, can I have a point of order on this? This takes 5 votes because it's amendment of the zoning code,
right?
To adopt.
To adopt 5 affirmative votes by council.
But we could, just like we did in the last one, I could make a motion that we,
This would be a motion to amend to go with this version of
To
it.
adopt that version.
So I could make a motion.
Well, I think we need to put this in front of council, just as we put the main
So I make a
version.
motion and we put it in front of council. Anybody second?
Second motion.
What's that?
Do you need a motion?
Second.
Any further discussion about this version?
Well, just that.
And this can be amended after.
Well, again,
It's
I
sort of a
don't
step
like, I don't like
transaction.
this version either. I don't like this
I know.
version either. So,
Let's
I mean,
vote
it's
on
gotta
If
clarify.
this is simple, and you're not voting to adopt this. You're voting to make this the version now being considered. It itself can now be amended
You could then have a motion to amend.
with a remand or whatever you want.
But what if the motion passes then?
Back at square zero, right?
Yeah.
You're back in square zero. All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Mr. Modi?
Sorry, I'm confused. If I say yes, then it favors this getting back on the table. Yeah, right? No.
Ms. Godek?
These two things. I want,
If you want to make amendments to this version,
yeah,
you'd vote yes.
yes, okay, yes.
Mr. Lemay?
No.
Mr. Gentili?
No.
Colonel Wright?
No.
All right, the motion fails. So that puts us to the
Original version,
original.
removal.
That version.
So I'm making a motion to put that version on the table.
That you can move to adopt, because that's the only one that exists officially in the record that received first, second reading and went to the planning commission.
All right, so to summarize that one, it was.
But that one was already voted down.
It wasn't voted down. There was a motion to amend made, and none of the amendments have been accepted by council.
So somebody could still make an emotion to make yet another amendment
Yes.
to that.
Yes.
Okay, so can we?
But if you, because that's the one that's in front of council,
Yeah.
if you move to adopt, that would be
Yeah,
a
so
motion
we
to
could,
adopt.
we
So
could move.
first you would have to make a motion to amend it.
If you choose.
One second, let me ask this out loud.
Yeah.
How many meetings has this been talked about?
A number, more than 3.
So can I make a motion to let it be a bygone, move on? Does that exist?
They make a motion to table.
Table.
You could.
You make that motion.
Well, the problem is we already have one motion on the floor.
But you can still
To
make a
adopt.
motion to table after the motion's on the floor.
That's true. It's a priority motion.
Are you making that motion?
I make a motion to table.
I second that.
Discussion regarding that.
My problem with tabling this issue is that my whole incentive in bringing this up in the first place was to get rid of the automatic appeal to council, not appeal, automatic review of council for that certain category of decisions, right? So like that is the thing that is onerous to our residents. They have to come to an extra meeting to get what honestly amounts to in most cases a rubber stamp. You know, so I take your point, trust me, like I'm sick of talking about this too, but I really think it's important that we get rid of that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the original basis.
Yeah.
My ordinance does that. It gets rid of that with very few other changes.
So
So
that
what
one
was-
was shot down.
We're in agreement. My ordinance does it. It gets rid of it.
Oh, no, I get that.
Yeah, I still recommend that the commission be directed to draft conclusions of fact if it is
Yes, I like that.
possible or likely that an appeal will be taken. The other thing, there's a couple of things that have been said that I just want to state for the record. Number one, it is true that 15 years ago, appeals, 2506 appeals they're not for money damages, so there was no insurance coverage. The current policy that the village has and the current standard in the industry, the city has, yeah, I'm sorry, I always forget where I am. The city has a policy that provides coverage, so the imagination of losing tens of thousands of dollars on litigation is not legitimate. Secondly, when you're talking about a 50-year-old standard of practice, remember your zoning code since 1966, your charter required a vote of the electorate if you were changing a single word of the zoning code. In 2012, the council put the issue on the ballot and by a 2-1 vote changed the standard so you don't have to have a vote of the people to change the zoning code. Before that happened, there would have been no opportunity without a vote of the people to change the appeal process to council. Finally, my greatest concern is after the commission has made a decision and rendered a written decision, council comes back and decides contrary to that, which is almost the definition of an arbitrary action. The standard of review that the Court of Common Pleas has is the decision of the city cannot be arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable. By putting the commission in place to have a standard and to state its factual basis for decision, we are closing that gaping loophole and will be in a better position. If council turns around and undoes what I was trying to accomplish with the initial legislation, we'll be worse than we are now. So my recommendation is to consider the revised version here and adopt that. And it will take 5 members to do it, so I don't know how likely that is to happen.
But Steve, your standard review is far more harsh than even the 2506.
Well, the initial draft that I had that you voted to amend didn't have that in. It eliminated
The one
councils.
before us today, though,
I understand.
is way more harsh than even that standard.
You would have the authority by 4 votes to go back to the other version that I originally put in front of you.
That version removed council completely.
It did.
It did.
You'll be in a better position as a matter of law, coming with appeals from the planning commission.
From a liability standpoint.
Absolutely.
I disagree 100% with that.
Well, how many years have you practiced municipal law? How many 2506 cases have you had?
I've consulted with a municipal lawyer who has, and let me explain why. Because that assumes the commission's decision is infallible, will never make a mistake, will never make an error. Having council review is a chance to look at the arguments of all the parties before they go out and understand what arguments they have that may be a little weakness that the commission or no one else anticipated. By having those arguments in advance, we can buttress the record to make it stronger so that the 2506 appeal will be won by the city.
But what about, like, because again, I'm a novice at this, but what about my suggestion that if council looked at it, the recourse was to remand it, is that the right word? Send it back to the planning commission. So at least they continue to be the last word. If it does go to court,
Okay,
they're always the last word.
I'm gonna make a suggestion to try to cut this Gordian knot. I would suggest that we send Mr. Byron back a draft proposed amendment in which council would retain its administrative review. It would be subject to a standard of substantial whatever evidence supporting it. But its only procedural alternative would be to remand back to the planning commission. That seems to touch a lot of bases here as to different people's concerns.
Okay, here's my 2 cents. I want to get back to eliminating the automatic review. So
That
Yeah,
would be,
that would be in there
yeah.
too.
Right.
I don't think anyone's opposed
But
to
I
that.
think, sorry, Mayor, just to clarify what you're suggesting, you're saying go with what Mr. Schmidt is advising. Make a version that has that.
Have that in the version for the remand, that's the alternative for council, the only
And that's
alternative.
it.
And that way you avoid, but there has to be, in my opinion, a standard of review. If Mr. May says, well, it doesn't say, substantial evidence supporting it, well, fine, we can include that, I think, in the standard. And there would be the, findings of fact, conclusions of all of that stuff. But the alternative for council would be to remand, so that we don't end up with 2 bodies going up on an eventual 2506 appeal with inconsistent conclusions and about the same body of facts. That is a real, I've litigated a number of 2506 appeals, lots of them, in fact. This is a problem that is being created here. You don't want to do that, I'm telling you.
What in our history has it been where an appeal has come, council has made a decision that is different than the planning commission, and it's not gone with any court effort?
It's never happened.
That's never happened.
In the living memory of the people in this room, anyway.
What
What's
has
happened?
happened, I guess, that's what I'm trying to.
We've never had an
So
appeal.
there-
The appeal that we've had was of the Erston sisters. And there was a decision that was made by the planning commission that was modified by the agreement of the parties, and then council put its imprimatur on that to eliminate the dispute.
Meaning they sided with the planning commission.
And there was a modification of some of the specifics of the order that the planning
They
commission had.
supported council supported the resolution agreed to by the planning commission.
Right.
And then what happened after
They built.
that? So nothing.
No, there was no
Curious,
court.
right, yeah.
Settle the case.
We settled the case.
So back to kind of the other side of your argument, saying the 50 years, well, we've never had to do it, so let's take the council out because we haven't had to do it anyway. If we need, if then the planning commission retains all the authority.
Yeah, all of the risk management activities that are being discussed here are engaged in by the planning commission. You've got a mayor who has litigated these things. You've had a law director who has never lost a 2506 appeal. And the activity of the commission is always to find the win-win resolution of whatever the dispute is, which is a philosophy that the city has followed for a number of years. I think if there's just going to be a remand, I think that's a compromise that can be managed, because it gives council the review. Council would need to find that there's a lack of evidence or that the appeal right isn't applied correctly. And I think the mayor's proposal and the suggestion that this be managed that way could work.
See, the draft you have is any evidence will suffice. That's in your draft.
Yes.
Could be against the majority of the evidence, and council still couldn't do it in your draft today.
Yes.
So you would be acting against the majority
It-
evidence at the planning commission, and council still couldn't touch it.
It is the Court of Appeals standard in reviewing a common pleas court.
It's not the
Decision.
2506 standard.
It is not.
But I'd just like to say, as I've said before, we can't count on always having the kinds of people we have now in these chairs, and we can't always count on these decisions in the future being made with the intelligence and wisdom that they have. This is an insurance policy that, if that isn't the case, we can undo the wrong. That's all there really is here. Nobody is saying anything negative about the current commission or about any of the people, and I disagree totally with what Mr. Byron is saying. This is an insurance policy against not having those people that you just talked about, yourself, the mayor, and others. So that's what a good organization would do. They would insure against a risk, and that's all I need to say.
Well,
We are
my
sure
understanding would
against
be
the risk.
for exactly the reason you said, and to Mr. LeMay's point, which is he's correct. You're going to be different people both on the planning commission and on council. And that is why I am recommending through the amendment that I suggested that council will consider is it builds process instead of people. I don't want to rely upon who happens to be the folks in a chair. I want a process that is as bulletproof as we can, that it doesn't create risk for this.
And isn't having a second step review a good process? It happens in
No,
most,
it's not, because it creates
most,
a disconnect between what happened at one level and another. That's why Mr. Schmidt's remand idea to keep things as a unified decision of one body, that I, as a litigator, I could deal with that.
In effect, that's basically saying, take council out of it. That's how I interpret it.
That's what it does.
No, it doesn't take council out of it, because we actually do the second check that Tony's talking about. But it, it's like, look, you go back and redo this homework assignment, okay? You missed a lot of stuff here. but still your work. And you are the body that produces this evidence for the city.
Nothing requires them to change their opinion. I want to, do want to say one thing. The likelihood of 7 council members as opposed to 5 or 4 or 5 commission members going off the reservation is less. Because you have 7 people. It's probabilities, is what we're dealing with. So if you send it back to those
6
5,
because the voting member of council is not going to participate in an appeal that they already voted on. I would hope not. That would be, that would be.
it's still more.
They would,
It's
they would
still
retain
more.
the authority as a member of council. Like,
Which is where I also have a problem.
Well, but
We
But if you send it back to the renegade planning commission, they're gonna just come back with the same
Okay, so
answer.
right now, where we're sitting is, we don't want to simply go back to nothing, because we're going to lose Ms. Godek's initiative originally to get rid of the automatic appeal that everyone has agreed to.
Correct.
So we don't want to lose that, ladies and gentlemen. So
When we have an ordinance that just takes that out, we'd be done with it.
that is something else that can be adopted.
I do like the findings of fact that Steve added.
I strongly recommend the commission do that if there's an issue.
So I'm good with the remand only. I think the mayor and Eric's arguments make perfect sense.
So do you want to make a motion to direct me to go back and amend the ordinance to take out the automatic appeal, have a substantial evidence requirement, give council the authority if there's a lack of substantial evidence to remand the matter, and the sole remedy available is remand the matter one time? Because the other thing I can tell you is
Yes, I'll
when
make
I
that motion.
okay, and let me just finish
I
that
second.
point. Jilly got that. When I started with Chagrin Falls, they had this provision that was comparable to this, where council served as the reviewing body for the Board of Zoning Appeals. And when I started there, they were in the process of remanding a case for the 3rd time over the course of a year, where it had gone to council, back to BZA. I recommend that it's a one-time remand, and then the case is over so that they can, get on to something else.
And Chagrin Falls still has a process with council review to this day.
They do.
And there's no standard review in that process.
But, well, I believe that, I'd have to go back and look at it.
No, I looked at it. There is no standard review in that
It
process.
doesn't mean it's good.
It doesn't mean it's good.
Hang on. What's the phrase you used? Finding of fact, what was the phrase?
Findings of fact,
Findings
conclusions of law.
Say that again.
Findings of fact and conclusions of law.
In a
So
twice,
the planning commission would have to write that up.
Yes.
in the cases where they're either denying a request, so that the person who's applying doesn't get the relief they've requested, so they're gonna be dissatisfied. Or a neighbor has come in and objected, and so somebody's gonna be upset. So in those 2 instances, if there's a request made and nobody cares, and the relief is granted, there's not gonna be an appeal. So
Okay.
in those instances where somebody's gonna be dissatisfied, there is going to be a written articulation of the basis for the decision, based on the facts that are presented.
So it sounds like findings of fact would be a good thing, regardless. Would we agree to that?
Yes,
And not-
but that's in the motion.
I
That's
put
in the
that-
motion.
Just as a matter of process, I put that, in my version, I put a similar thing when an appeal is filed. And my theory on that is, why do it until,
The reason that you do it is twofold. Number one, there is some case law that says it has to be decided, the facts have to be found at the time the decision is made. So I keep
it's only
that in
10
the back.
days.
Huh?
It's only 10 days.
Well, at the time the decision is made. The other thing is, if somebody's going to be dissatisfied, oftentimes a written basis for the decision gives them the understanding that their objection has been heard, and there at least is a basis for the denial. There's a value to that process, and what happens is the commission comes back a week after the initial presentation, or a month after, at its next meeting, and then adopts the thing. In that time, There may be compromises, there may be opportunities to resolve the dispute outside of the formal process.
Let's review what we're voting on.
Yeah, point of order. Yeah,
So
point of order.
this, as I understand the motion, it was a motion to make amendments to the ordinance that keep the elimination of the automatic appeal that everybody agrees. It includes a process for the commission, as originally proposed, to draft written conclusions of fact when the circumstances are there where there's either a proponent or there's a denial of a request that are likely to resolve the appeals.
Finding of fact and conclusion of law.
They aren't conclusions of law because it's not a legal body. Courts do findings of fact and conclusions of law. The 2506.02 calls for conclusions of fact, so it doesn't roll off the tongue as nicely.
So that's things that you're gonna.
Yes, exactly right.
So
And
go
then-
on.
And then the third aspect of it is council reviews for the correct legal standard, and if substantial evidence exists, with the authority to either affirm or remand to the commission for further consideration, and it's a one-time process
Can we do a version with just the first 2 points?
where council doesn't have review.
What's the version we're modifying now?
We've got so many different
The
things.
original
We're starting over, basically.
We're going back to the original and giving Steve 3 things to change if we pass this.
So, Sandy,
I just want to make sure we're talking
Yeah,
about.
that's why I asked.
the motion, the one that I seconded, has the remand to, okay? And that's, so we're gonna vote, yes or no now. If you want only the first 2 items changed, you're gonna have to vote no.
I think the remand is a good one.
Yes, I think the remand is a very good compromise.
I do too.
But you're gonna have to, you're gonna have to make a
I like
decision.
whiteboards, A, B, and C.
I know, but you're gonna have to make a decision.
Okay.
And then, and if you vote no and you get enough people to go with you, and then we're wipe your space clean, and you can make a new motion. How's that sound?
Well,
Okay?
One of the options would be to table this until you have all 7 members here.
All right, so the motion to amend says, the Colonel made as recited for clarity by Mr. Byron a moment ago, call the roll.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yes.
Mr. Modi,
no.
Ms. Godek,
Yes.
Mr. Lemay,
No,
Mr. Gentili.
No.
Colonel Rice.
Yes.
All right, so council remains deadlocked on this, and I am going to recommend that we pass any further consideration of this ordinance tonight, and that we revisit it at a later time.
Entertain a motion to table.
I would entertain a motion to table.
so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
The unanimous vote.
Roll call.
Mr. Schmidt,
No.
Mr. Modi,
Yes.
Ms. Godek, Mr. Lemay,
Yes.
Mr. Gentili.
I got the whole world in my head.
Colonel Rice.
No.
Okay. The motion to table 1, 2, 3.
You had 4.
You
got 4.
Did pass.
I've already guessed.
Yeah, you got 4.
It is tabled. We will, at a future date, have a motion to return it
Do
to
something.
the table. Since we're proceeding in the very Robert's Rules manner regarding this ordinance. Next, we are going to pass quickly. This was dealt with briefly at the Finance Committee. Provide you guys with an update regarding the 2026 amended appropriations. It had been the ambition to have that amended budget and appropriations ordinance before you tonight. Unfortunately, life interfered with our audit, making great demands on Mr. Peter's time, and more so, we are missing a player to conclude the budget process until our bond counsel returns from vacation at the end of this month to provide us with some critical data regarding some of the debt aspects of the budget that would be adopted. We don't know, there are things about payouts of the debt that would be incurred in some aspects of the proposed budget. We need Mike Sharp's
So
advice.
existing bonds being paid out or?
Potential new things for, that would be built into this proposed budget.
Okay, I'm a little, it's a little opaque. Can you give me more? I just want to
Yeah,
sort
we
of think
have,
about
we
it.
have sewer projects, we have trail projects, we have a city hall project. There are things that are being described potentially into this budget
Okay.
that are going to have debt associated with them. And we need Mike's advice regarding when certain things are gonna hit the books.
So
Realistic.
it would be the rating implications of having this potential debt.
Even down to the level of what, are you gonna roll notes that are out there, or are you going to bonds because the project's completed, or actually, I guess you don't roll notes. Are you gonna go to debt this year or next year,
Okay.
which would make a
Well,
difference?
we need Mike's advice on this before it can be concluded. To relax council or to provide some assurance. So this will be in front of council, hopefully at our future meeting. But Mr. Sheehy tells me he has the authority he needs and is proceeding with his design that's been approved for the various trails. And the bidding process will not be delayed by our not yet having this increased appropriation in place. We have adequate funds appropriated to handle the trails that are coming online initially that he's designing. So we'll be okay, and we're not going to be delaying things by this.
We need to do this at the first meeting in June.
We hope so.
No,
Is
we
he
need.
the only bond guy at this firm?
He's the one that's familiar with the
He's the
the
bond
cities.
I mean, I just feel like,
Squire, Patton, Boggs, so they have a few bond people.
yeah,
But
It's
Mike's the
always been
one.
yeah, I
We can
understand, he
provide the advice on this
knows Pepper
project.
Pike, I just wonder, like, if it push comes to shove and we're, in a few weeks' time.
If it came to,
Yeah.
that shove, I
Okay.
agree with you, but we're not at the shove.
Okay.
We're not at the shove.
We're getting
They have this
close.
market locked up. There's got to be someone else at some point. Just a general comment.
He's a great guy, he provides
He is,
great
he
advice to
is.
us. Next, we want to give an update regarding the city hall renovation discussion. I circulated, I don't know if you've all been able to open it yet, the survey that was put together by Lasky. We had a pretty good response, a very good response. And that was circulated to council as to the results. This dealt with what are the responding people's aspirations regarding the community room, and basically the idea that it should accommodate 90 to 100 people for various functions seems to have been pretty much on target. It was very consistent with what had been planned.
I looked at the survey. It only looked like a couple hundred maybe?
Yeah, but that's a pretty good response.
I think it's
Yeah,
at
but I mean, just-
99.
Just the whole rollout of this thing to the city and getting a broader range of input.
It was rolled out to the whole city.
I know, but only 100 people responded.
That's what
That
was
seems like,
That's pretty good
number. I
for,
mean,
Yeah.
just take the time to,
It may indicate how much passion there is about this topic, I don't know. We had bigger responses to our trail surveys, I'll say that, but there's more passion about that.
the first page of results was pretty telling. It was pretty close to good. People who would use it versus who would.
So Mayor, on this agenda item, if I'm remiss, I have some handout I'd like to fill in advance to facilitate discussion.
We're here for discussion, so
Okay.
hand up.
Trying to put it on the screen might be easier.
You wanna do that?
There you go. Okay, so I'll just give you what's in my head on where I think we are. 'Cause I thought, Paul Deutsch, right? I thought his presentation last month was really well done. I did vote on the time and materials going into Goodman for schematic design. So my questions are in my head are like, okay, what comes after that is done, right? I think if we are aligned as a council on what that process unfolds, then it helps when we have to socialize the message to our residents on what our plan is and why we're doing it, and we're more unified that way. So that's in essence my goal of what's in front of me. Okay? So I put this flow up here just to stimulate thinking. Of course, Wyloski's going to complete their phase of work. Council, we're going to get handed something, right? Around a cost estimate, the scope of the recommendation, et cetera, right? And then it's up to us. What are we going to do? So I think it's not going to be a simple yes/no decision. There's going to be a lot of factors, and maybe it's a little uncomfortable, but we should talk about some of them. Okay, so I kind of broke it into 3 buckets. What's already committed versus what's open. I think a lot of us have different answers to this. So it'd be good just to align what that really is. Bucket B, are there any elements design perspective council should weigh in on? I think the less the better, leave it to the experts. So that in the sidewalk, back and forth of the experts. We're way to go, so I don't want to waste our cycles on that. But that's my opinion. And then, should we even have a validation check? Meaning, we're streaming down this course with Wyloski. We need to have a confirmation of some sort. Maybe it's great, he has a good plan. So would this be necessary? Would this be wise, or would it just need a process? Maybe we should align on that question. So just going deep on each of these 3. I think we're effectively committed on using Wyloski as a lead architect. And we have these must-haves, right? The ADA accessibility, meeting the functional requirements of the needs assessment. In my head, could be up for debate on, did we do the full loan out plan or some scaled down version? I'll pause here, keep going, because I don't want to go on a rabbit hole in each of these. Then design elements, again, I mentioned, I don't know what role council would have, if any, but maybe if there's a trade-off on the sustainability initiatives, that could be one idea, but I'll leave the details to the experts. And then third, do we need any additional validation without hitting the restart button? Because I think that's the key. We do not want to do that. One could argue either way, but I think that's the key. We don't want to restart. So if we do entertain something like this, it should help us progress forward and not delay us in activity. Okay?
Additional validation, meaning bringing in other architects to
And not to start from scratch. The way I'm thinking about it is we have plans. We have the conceptual design already done, right? We have the schematic design that's soon to come in. So if we were going to bring anyone, it would be to ask the question, in my opinion, is there something you would do to enhance it or something better? Not to blow the whole thing up.
I would agree that that would be the first. There was an architect that came in, I don't recall the name exactly, but they had a different scheme that was, had a different cost Packard, what Bielowski had in their first go along. I'll do better by hearing.
Then we get bogged down and then we fall off the process.
Well, it's, there's a difference, there's either you get bogged down and you make a better decision sometimes, or you
no decision.
Or that might be the best decision to make. And, or you can rush and make an error. There's a trade-off there between rushing and taking your time and doing it right. And I'm talking about spending a significant, or borrowing a very significant amount of money. And I think that rushing is not the way to go. For the sake of having a decision.
I think for the meta question is, we want the city hall renovation. I think that's a slam dunk yes, right? Unless somebody disagrees, we should know.
I'm sorry.
Fine.
Yeah, he just disagreed. He just said maybe nothing. He just disagreed with that.
This is my opinion. I think we all need it.
What Sandeep said was the meta decision, the overall decision, is that we need a renovation. Is that fair to say? Do you agree?
That's an opinion.
See, okay, so not everybody agrees.
So I think we do need a renovation. I think it's, and I like the Bielowski design. I think he's a solid architect. That's, of the 3 or 4 plans we've seen, his last one was the best one. No question. But I do think that we're not in a rush to do this. The roof isn't falling in, the pipes aren't leaking. We're fine here. And getting it right rather than getting it fast should be a priority. This is going to be $4 to $6 million. It'll be the biggest capital project maybe ever in the city's history. And having it right for the next 30 or 40 years is important. So we're all captives of our own experiences. And once you lock in on a design, you kind of crowd out other ideas. Everyone does that in all fields. You have a serious medical condition, you always get a doctor's second opinion. Doesn't mean the first guy's wrong. The other guy just has a different experience, a different angle. You do that with lawyers, you do that with all kinds of professionals. So I'm fond of his design. I thought this was his best work that I've seen. But nonetheless, I think having another perspective with a different background, just to look at it and say, it would be cheaper and better if you did X rather than Y. Or have you thought about this? Have you thought about that?
Well, I'm not sure how you mean that, because we do in fact have other architects that have looked at it and admired it. So how do you mean that?
Well, no, I mean we've had the planning commission, I guess, look at, when you say other architects, who are you referring to?
We have architects that are on the ARB, we have architects in the community. I mean, there are people who've looked at it and they admire it. So are you looking for a more form? You want them to sign off in blood that they like it?
No, I guess I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have someone looks at it from this angle or this angle, has a great idea, doesn't cost any more, and makes it better. And should we just foreclose the possibility that there is improvements to this design?
There's always improvements, and that's why we go through the process. But I'll just, first time with Bielowski to where we are now. So there was a lot of concern for ADA and some other things. So, okay, you got the elevator right. And I liked his original design where he bumped way out here. And he changed it. Why? Because a bunch of people asked him, well, what about ADA access for driving up to the building? And I was against that. And he put a nice driveway in, and I looked at his concept and I went, oh, that's pretty good. He's been very flexible. And I'll tell you I won't take words out of Eric's mouth, but I'll let Eric tell you where he got sold on it. The idea of fixing the circulation, that was Paul Deutsch. And people go, oh yeah, it's been a problem for a long time. And it's been one sitting in front of everybody's eyes that they never saw. And I'll let you.
Well, yeah, so what he's referring to is I very much admire what he's doing with the parking lot. And I know that my kids growing up, they actually would complain about coming here to the playground because they didn't like walking through the parking lot. So I looked at what he did and I said, I didn't even know how he knew that it was a problem, but what he's done is fantastic. But that brings to mind that he went through a process. Now, maybe we need to review with everybody what that was, but there was a needs analysis done. The council was involved in the way of, Bob and I, call it the infrastructure committee.
But all were invited.
And so, this has been built up. This has been.
Everyone on council was invited. Every single person.
This has been built up, bottom up, requirements wise. So.
I'm fond of the design. I think he did a great job.
Yeah, he has.
But
He did.
But the example that you just raised for Rice was, the driveway in the front.
Yeah.
Which warming up to. But
I'm warming up to it too. I was not a fan. And then the way he laid it out, I went, and specifically some people that sit in the back of the room asked about it, and I went, I don't know. And then he put it in there, I went, you know what, the way he did it, I kind of like that. I think I'm good.
I'm not sold on all those aesthetics, but I raised that as an example of a later idea came in that made it better. And are there other ideas like that one that we just haven't seen, and having one more point of view?
So then
Where's that coming from?
Where are you thinking this point of view is
coming from?
yet to come from?
So that's my question, like at what point in the process and how do you potentially bring someone else in? Is it
Listen,
like
I have an answer. We have some incredibly talented individuals on our AVR. When Paul has concluded his process, he will present that for feedback, because that's all these guys do. They give you feedback. One of them, our chair, Hassan Verdesi, he does enormous commercial projects. He is not, the other two are, they do, I'm sure, commercial projects from time to time. They do a lot of residential too. But Hassan, he builds hospitals, he builds buildings. And for him to look at this sort of design, it'll just be part of their typical ABR process. They will do it. As you've all heard from residents who don't like some of the pushback that they get sometimes. They are not shy about saying, yeah, maybe you want to tune it up this way. I think a very professional and productive conversation can be had. I don't know that they're going to say anything. The first time they looked at his design for resolving a problem, the comment was, that's actually kind of elegant. We didn't see how you were going to accomplish that. And he accomplished it in that first design. And he said, that's really an elegant solution. Doesn't mean they're going to think everything he does is elegant. And because I've been here. Eric comes into these meetings and he sees they're not timid about telling someone they think they're wrong.
I think that's a very good point, because that concept to me is accretive to whatever his design is going to be, and not throw it out the window.
Right. I think that is the solution to the concerns that I've heard.
And I think that's, and their residents, their architects, look, I think that's a great idea, because, and I think that's a great idea to get behind. I won't call myself a builder, but I've built bases and big projects, but I'm not an architect. And so my concept of design, that's why I kind of glommed onto circulation flow, and the other thing I went, oh man, that's really good. Because I sit right in front of it, and I drive, and I bring my dog over here to walk, and I almost hit 3 people every time, but I don't even think about it.
It's solving a problem we didn't know we had.
Yeah.
I mean,
So that's why we are.
It was very clever. Like I say, I liked his design. I just want this to be as best as it can be, and having various perspectives can help improve it. So
we'll make sure that he gets good feedback. It will improve the project. Architects aren't shy of critiquing each other's work.
How do you see it playing out? Is it, how many architects would there be?
We have 3 on the board.
So would each of them individually go through it?
They'll probably go through a club. They're not gonna write up things, they're gonna have a dynamic, the architectural process of critique is a very dynamic one.
But they're kind of like piranhas from, you put a design in front of them and they're like going at it.
I said dynamic, you say piranhas, okay? But yeah, they're not, these are not professionally shy. This is how they,
So
from
to
the
answer
first year of
your-
architecture school,
your other
they are
question.
engaged in criticism of each other.
So one thing that I talked to Paul Deutsch about at length is, I call it a one-to-end list. And we used to do that for huge projects. So one-to-end means he's gonna start with the most important thing, and then we're gonna decide what the one-to-end list is, okay? So building renovation, okay, and it's gonna come with a cost, $3.5 million. Shelter for the police cars with shore power, $250,000. Redo the asphalt circulation, boom, boom, boom. There'll be big chunks on there, HVAC, geothermal HVAC, solar panel lighting. It'll just be a list, and then what we do is the council will end up racking and stacking that one and going, okay, and then we'll see what the cost is, right? And then we go, where are we comfortable going down and what we want to pay for? You know, my going in is I want it all, right? I want the circulation, I want a net zero campus and a great new building. So, but we'll see what the real cost is, and that's what he's gonna do on this round. But the council will get that opportunity to take his product and rack and stack where you think we go and whatever our cut line is. Maybe his line stops at $5.8 million and we were comfortable with 6, so we'll get everything. Or whatever it is, but we don't know that until he takes that step. But that's kind of how I envisioned working with him through this.
Usually there's a value engineering step in this process as I've built, participability, where you get this and then it's part of your rack and stack thing. I agree with that. But then often there's another phase that says, okay, we need to sharpen the pencil. And,
Yeah.
So let me ask you one question. I think about, you've done a t-shirt sizing exercise. So you could have medium, large, and extra large. So whatever is the current, in Wylowski's current vision, could be construed as an extra large right now. Maybe a large, I don't know the answer. I just think it'd be good to have options presented by his firm that says, if you wanted a medium, this is what the whole thing looks like. Here's the large, here's the extra large, the full shebang.
I think isn't that kind of what you were saying?
Yeah, it's an à la carte.
That's sort of,
different.
that's
It's-
different than what I'm talking about. But what he did through the needs assessment was saw what between the council, the community, the staff, what size chamber do we need? Because that really overlays the community room, right? And if we wanted the community room to be bigger, that would make the chamber bigger. I'm not as convinced as other people that we need a community room, but, okay, so, but everybody's talked about that. We don't have a community center, so this scratches that itch without a big bill, because we have to fix the basement anyway, right? So I think the council chamber is kind of if you have thoughts on it, look at the design that he sent out, I think it looks about right. It seats around 70, 75. We never get more than that in here, but so for big events, for promotions, police officers, for other things, we get close to 50 people in, or we could. So, I mean, everybody that's been here longer than I have figured that number was about whatever he has, and I think it's around 75.
and I appreciate that's a driver. That is the driver, right?
Yeah, I
Because
think
it's the
so.
upper floor.
Yeah,
And so deciding that kind of decides downstairs. as well.
correct. And because there was a thought, well, maybe the community room needs to be bigger, which would drive a bigger council chamber.
Yeah.
But I think the survey tells us what he's figured downstairs is right in the shot group as well.
But, back to your question, I think this is back to your question, Cindy. As Bob said, eventually we will have an à la carte list.
Correct.
Right? So-
But that's for the whole campus.
Yeah, that's
The
all
whole
the big
thing.
pieces.
Right.
So, yeah, if we don't like the number in total, yes, then we have the ability to go in and cherry pick off of it what we don't want.
So there's the number of drivers to the council chambers, also where the elevator is gonna be, there's a number of pieces. And could you make the council chamber a little bit smaller, which would drive the community room a little bit smaller, which would save a little bit of money? I don't know, probably, and I think we could get to that decision point before we really go final.
It'd be interesting to find out in council chamber of X or Y, just what's the incremental cost, because it's all incremental cost, right? Because
Sure
you're
it is.
digging anyway.
They're digging anyway, and this is all actually gonna get knocked down.
Right.
So it's a full rebuild of this end of the building. So it's just, okay, do we go 6 feet out or whatever it is? So, we can talk about that, and Eric and I, and he's gonna come to the next road infrastructure committee in July. He'll have we gave Don and Paul the month of June off. We're not gonna have a road infrastructure committee because they got a lot of homework and a lot of things to do. So, and then we'll bring Paul back probably at another council meeting in July, and we'll see where we are. I think if you wanna make it a little bit smaller, I don't know, but I think all the other renovation is really it's based on the size of the building, so it's where we're gonna go.
I like to default to the experts on these kinds of things.
Yep.
Right? So it's not my place to say, hey, why is the footprint X and not?
Well, that's what
X,
I
Y,
mean,
Z?
that's what Eric and I and Sheila and the mayor and other people who've been here for years said, do we need a bigger council chamber? Absolutely, this is, right?
Yes.
There's no doubt about that.
My only point was, when the time comes to vote on budget spending, capital spending, what is that really gonna look like? Are we gonna have different choices, options, or is it all or nothing? And I don't mean for the campus, it's meant for this. That's what I'm trying to write.
So I will you're gonna get all for the main building. I think the only flex thing would be taking the chamber out a little bit more or a little bit more or shrinking it from what his first design,
That's the only flex part that I see.
That's what I would think is the only flex. And truthfully, once you knock it down and rebuild, and going out another 8 feet, it's probably not a great cost, right?
The marginal is not that much.
Okay. But the other thing I would say, to every council member, you're all invited to the road infrastructure committee meetings, and they are very, very good and very interactive. And that will be at the next. And Don, you really want to get the nuts and bolts of everything going on, and the community's invited as well. So, but I would tell you, that's a great opportunity, especially all we talk about is road infrastructure, city hall, roads, sewers, wind sidewalk. Next meeting will be July, what'd I say? 13th?
13th or 16th, somewhere around.
Yeah, it's the first and second Monday in, it's the 13th. It's at 0800 downstairs. It's a Monday, so our rhythm is we go Monday, usually the Monday before the first council meeting at 0800 from 08 to 10. So everybody's invited to those, but June will be the first month that we skip because there's just so much going on for the architect and the engineer. We want to let them plow ahead and not get bogged down by the Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Good discussion. Appreciate it as well. Next, we are going to address the Rust Belt Riders, they came here and Ms. Godek and others have encouraged, let's take a shot at it. and see how it works. It's not forever money. Technically, frankly, council, the money, which I think they projected around 14-ish,
I mean,
it was around 14. It's within my authority just to enter into a contract and deal with it, but I didn't think it was appropriate. I think this is philosophically a new initiative for the city to make this recycling, composting type idea available to our residents, and I think it's appropriate that council indicate its support for this initiative.
so a couple things I wanted to just reiterate from Zoe's presentation. I love the fact that this is really a kind of pay as you use it situation. You know, there's the upfront cost of just establishing the kind of corral to house the bins. You know, they do education components. She strongly suggested that the city supply the buckets to residents who want to participate. But once all that's kind of established, we are paying, if we fill up 1 bin a month, if we fill up 10 bins a month, they're charging us for use, which is great. I mean, I think obviously the sustainability, ecological, environmental component is very compelling. So I think the education component is going to be really important to try to get people on board with the sort of standard questions that come along, like, isn't this going to stink? How do I manage this, et cetera, et cetera. But I do know that so many people already drive through. I mean, you know, how many people drive through dumping stuff every day? I think it would hopefully fit really nicely into a lot of people's daily flow of activity anyway.
Dump off my cardboard, dump off my
Yeah,
food
and
scraps.
so, you know, I think that it's a pretty low lift from our perspective, which with a potentially, you know, decent sustainability and footprint.
How do they measure success in terms of uptake? I mean, it's kind of not worth their while if it's like, no one's,
Well, I think they're charging, because they're charging per bin, I think that they're just pricing that accordingly.
Right, and they only come out when bids are full. So
Yeah.
their
so
cost
they're not
is-
driving by and just checking.
No, they're not.
Right. And they, I don't remember the number. I mean, I know she said if it was if residents were paying on their own, the number of residents that would have to be subscribed to make it worth their time. Does anyone remember? I don't remember the number. It was, yeah, I want to say it was like 50 something, whatever. But, you know, I think, so say we get 50, say we get 100 people. I mean, how many households are in Pepper Pike? 3,000? Something like that. I mean, you know, shoot for 10%. I mean, I think that would be a big success.
So what I really impressive too is their help with us, you know, standardizing buckets, branding, the education, the outreach, the communications to really help us roll this out. So
And they've been around a long time. Like they have this
they're,
just like
they're
dialed
really
in.
good at this.
Yeah.
I'm super favored. It's and you can hear my spiel. I mean, I keep talking about a net zero campus. That's the long one. But we passed the solar ordinance. We joined
EFCO.
the FCO. This one, and then now the next. If we go to net zero, we are making big changes on sustainability, but being a better community.
I did some simplified looking into, did we have alternatives? They sell this product to business.
Yeah.
Were there other businesses? They're kind of the game. They're the ones who do this. So
I'm gonna make a motion that the council.
it's not a heavy lift on our
to-
part, and I think my recommendation is that we should do it.
I'll make a motion that the mayor, the council, we can discuss. Is to authorize the mayor to go into contract with Rust Belt Riders.
Have they ever had, I think I asked this question, but have they ever had a committee who just didn't do it, just didn't, and failed, or has there been some uptake everywhere they've tried?
I don't remember that
I
question
don't
being
remember that
asked. I mean, I'm happy to find out.
Yeah.
They certainly wanted to add it to their presentation.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know,
If it crashes and burns,
yeah,
Well, they'll just take it, they'll just take it to crowd,
they'll come get their
come
stuff.
and get it.
Well, the stuff is yours, because you're buying it.
Oh, that's, we're
they just
buying
said
it.
it, right. I mean, it's some fencing, basically,
Yeah, it's
right?
fencing, cans,
Signs.
5-gallon buckets, all the sign.
Do you have any concerns about it from a
I
logistics
was,
standpoint?
when it was first thought, they kept, speaking of one village,
which theirs was close to their park. And obviously their area is a lot different than ours. Everything is right here. So I tried to find, when we first talked about this, I tried to find a spot where I thought it would work. But it also has to be accessible. And that was the big thing, is accessibility all year round, 365. So we have an area over by the fence that the biggest challenge is around winter time. Because it's an area where we stack snow, but I think that we can develop a 8x8 area and make it work. So it's just, it was just trying to find a good spot that's not going to be offensive to the public, but also be able to be welcome.
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
Well, did John sign off on that? Because I know in a couple of weeks, you're really not gonna care, are you?
John,
Just hearing about this tonight.
Who is this?
Thank you.
All right, we have a
First and
motion,
second.
second, another second, and roll call.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Bodie?
Yes.
Ms. Godick? Yes. Mr. LeMay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentile? Colonel Rice?
Yes.
All right, I will proceed. I appreciate it. Next, I would ask for a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing with counsel pending or imminent litigation.
Mayor, can I just ask how come that's 9 and not like 12?
David?
Like, how come we're not doing this at the very end of the meeting?
Oh,
I missed, that should be there. That should not be there. That was we didn't do the mayor and council
Yes.
comments, and I apologize.
Oh, okay.
That, we haven't done, it's misplaced on this.
Gotcha, okay.
Thank you.
I didn't know if there's a
Good
special.
catch.
No, thank you for catching that.
Oh, good.
We'll defer adjourning. from
Yeah.
that. And I go to the mayor's comments. We had a wonderful Memorial Day commemoration since we were last together. I appreciate those of you who could come. A special call out to Councilman Eric Schmidt for his digging into an issue of getting a videotape done.
New Scott Newell.
I'm sitting in the chair.
Take with the chair. But Eric did a great job, and we both learned from the process as to how we can do it even better in the future. And I'm not trying to say this is not your job, but we will. We learned as to some of the things we have to accomplish to make this work.
It is easier the second time.
Now you're an expert. But a special call out and thanks also to the Orange Chase School Band and Lionettes and all those young people who came here on their holiday, to their parents who came to attend as if it was a football halftime game. And they didn't leave after halftime, so I appreciate their staying for the duration. And most importantly to General Peter Collins, who retired Marine Corps general, who we all benefited from his words that day. And I appreciate very much he's taken his holiday to be here and commemorate the meaning of it. So that was terrific. And thank you, General. That's the biggest news that has occurred since we were together a whole week ago. So I think I'll end with that. Any council members have comment? Otherwise, we'll adjourn.
I have a quick question, and I was told to ask you, John. Can you give us, sorry, you throw him
Just
can
ignore
you give
him.
us an update on the Fragmites project? Success, continuing, like what's going on with all that?
We're on a hold right now until we actually go out and test the areas that are marked on GIS, but that's not until late July.
Okay.
We measure out, there's 4 different quadrants, and then we submit that back to the coalition. And and they determine what the next process would be, what they need to do for treating.
Okay, so would we consider expanding, like if they came back and said, okay, here, this method was far and away the most successful? Is it something that the city would consider expanding and, start tackling more areas?
Could long, it
Yeah,
could
okay,
depend on where, of course, I mean,
Right.
you're
Our
talking about like,
biggest challenge is is the lack of public land
yeah,
that have this, like an enormous installation. Growth of Phragmites is on the Park Synagogue
Okay,
property along the
yeah.
river. We don't control that. We can, once we learn that this is successful, we
Yeah.
can share our knowledge
Okay.
with private landowners and how they can address it.
great.
If
Thank
they
you.
still
Long-range
have active
remote,
Phragmites,
it's
Yeah.
271.
will
Yeah.
the seeds blow over to, I mean,
It's like coyotes and deer, they go everywhere.
they go everywhere.
Listen, this is, before I adjourn to executive session, since we won't be coming back together, this is Mr. Advent's final meeting. And,
Don't look too excited.
I'll say this, first, Jim has never retired on duty, which I appreciate very much. Jim has continued his great efforts. Before, Jim has been our foreman for 5 years. Before that, he was our service director for 5 years. Before that, he was our foreman, working with Mr. Girardi for 7 years before that. And in his distant past, he was actually one of our service workers before coming back to us as a foreman. Jim Advent is one of the finest public servants I've gotten to work with. He is incredibly dedicated to serving the public that employs him. And his motto that is continued on in our service department is, we don't say no. We figure out how to help our residents. And that has driven a lot of the decision-making that comes out of his office. And he, I think, has always inspired the people who work with him to understand that attitude. It's very marine, a can-do attitude, that's what they have. And I just want to thank you, Jim, for everything that you have done. And we all wish you great success and happiness in your future. Don't be afraid. Following that maudlin display, we will now, did we already go on adjournment?
No.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Modi?
Yes.
Ms. Godet? Yes. Mr. Lemay?
Yeah.
Mr. Gentili? Colonel Rice?
Yeah.
All right, we stand adjourned to executive session. Thank you all for coming here. We will not be reconvening for any public discussion.
So we can stay here then, right? We can stay here?
We're gonna stay here?
Yeah.
If these people will get out of the room. We'll get that from.
All right, see you guys.